Good morning, everyone. I am John O'Loughlin, and welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff underscore 2020. And this morning, I'm so delighted that George Webb is able to join us. We're starting a few minutes late this morning, but it's much better late than never. So hang on a second, and we'll get George up on the screen. 1 second, please. And there he is. Hi, George. How are you?
Hey, John. Great to be with you this morning.
Well, what a week it's been. I feel like we all deserve a break, George. Don't we all deserve a break by now, or we still have to keep our eye on the ball and scrutinizing the lawyers as they whittle away at the election.
Well, our value added to this, I think, was very specific and very corner. It's one little corner of the whole election pandemonium scene. We were just there in Michigan, and just watching Warren Flood of the election tampering of 2016 fame. So we're just watching him in 2020, seeing what he's going to do, and so that was really. If somebody else is in Georgia watching that, somebody else is in North Carolina, that's great. We're all kind of poll watchers, in our own electronic way.
Yeah, yeah, but at the same time, I think we also deserve a little bit of a break, and all the lawyers that are busy right now, thousands of them, with their laptops and their research tools and their two, $300, $400 an hour, and even $1,000 an hour for the partners. All that stuff is going to be grinding out an awful lot of paper. But among all the things that I've seen, I think to me the most interesting thing is what Harry the Greek posted a little while ago on his Twitter, which is a copy of the original petition for certiorari to the Supreme Court from the Pennsylvania Republican Party. And I had a chance to read that in the past hour or so, and doggone if it doesn't start giving me some hope. Because a lot of litigation was done before the election, and we're now at a point where back in earlier, like August, October, August and September, there was stuff going on at the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that is the basis for what we hope will turn out to have been a sting operation against the ballot stuffing in Philadelphia and elsewhere. Hopefully, between Pennsylvania and at least one other state, we can still have some hope that the president will be reelected. But again, I'm trying to get my claws out of it right now, just to let them do their work. And I wonder, is there really anything that we can do other than, as you say, be vigilant and electronic watchdogs?
Well, yeah, I'll just throw out the one thing that we were looking at, which is the the individual secretaries of state do the ballots. So this idea that DHS printed 48 million ballots and they all had some kind of watermark, radioactive watermark, and so forth, is a little bit not in concert with the facts. Each state's Secretary of State prints them. Now, from there, we looked at Warren Flood, this activist for the DNC. He was involved in the last big election tampering, which was 2016 at the DNC. People who don't remember who Warren Flood is, he was the one who created the document, which was the Trump file, the Trump dump file, the Trump file that had all the nasty things that Trump did. And when the hackers went in to hack the DNC, they didn't hack all the records about the Frank Juster partners, illegal mining operations all over the world. They hacked the Trump dump file, all the bad stuff about Donald Trump. And that was Warren Flood's original file, 250 some page file that was done on Donald Trump, his sort of dossier, the first Trump dossier, which didn't get as much publicity. But so this was the first attempt at a dirty trick in 2016. So this is what I look to, rather than, a lot of the lawyers, they're going to go through mountains and mountains of ballots and mountains of paperwork. I look at somebody who's committed a crime before with a smoking gun in their hand. And then sometimes the crime solving is very easy, because you say, well, he's still involved in the DNC. He's still right in the middle of all this, controversy. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And if you look at his what technology his wife provides, which is this Alex McAlexander. She had this company. She was Obama for America. She had a company called Civis, CIVIS, which is close to the word civics. And Civis was doing, she was a consultant for Civis, and she was doing these recommendations on safeguarding elections. And one of the ways you safeguard an election is with these types of watermarks. There's some radioactive watermarks that are made at Michigan State University and their isotope reactor that may have been recommended. We don't really know what Civis recommended, but we have a pretty good idea of when it occurred. It occurred in the famous Mackinac Island meeting. If you remember, Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, has this, her husband wants to get to the front of the line and put their boat in before everybody else in Michigan, and no one else in Michigan's allowed to go to their vacation homes to watch the boat going over to Mackinac Island to see who's on the boat to Mackinac Island. And that's the governor's mansion, the summer home in Mackinac Island. And I believe that that Warren Flood was at that meeting along with Alex McAlexander. Now, did they talk about safeguarding the ballots in Michigan or not? We don't know that. But we do know that several other secretaries of state also consulted with Civis. Civis also safeguards, quote unquote, the foreign elections, especially in countries where, I'll just say, especially in countries where the CIA wants to see a different result. So again, this pattern in practice leads me to, it's smoke, it's not fire, it's not proof, but it's previous evidence that leads you in a direction of inquiry.
Okay, well, it sounds kind of hard to follow to me, and I'm going to have to just sit back myself and because, having done plenty of litigation in my life, I'm just not excited to get into the legal issues. I think if Barr was working for the president and everything was clear, the lines of chain of command was clear, then I would think we'd have a clear outcome. But just like everything else in this country, it's not transparent, and we're not going to know anything for a while. And I should think that the powers that want to bring us down would be doing things to aggravate each side against the other. As the time drags out, people are going to get more and more stressed, and things can happen. I hope that the lawyers do conquer this thing, and this Pennsylvania Supreme Court action does look like something that the Supreme Court's going to strike down. That will be a political thing, and then the Antifas will show up in Washington, and I don't know, but you're either in charge of your government or you're not, and that's my problem all along. Everything I've read since I started studying my dad's career, it leads me to the fact that the chain of command has been completely disrupted by these agents that get placed in all the agencies and all the military commands that respond not to the president, but to the CIA and whoever he's really working for. It's disgusting, but that's the situation we're in, and I'm just trying to calm down and let it play itself out without me trying to, jump on the scales one way or the other.
Yeah, John, I try to just hone in on the one smoking gun, in a whole city. If you can identify the one hot pistol, it really reduces your amount of time that you have to go through turning every house upside down. And so that's why I always go to the previous people that were involved in previous shenanigans, and I always go to the technology that they're connected with. If you remember, Warren Flood was the one who put the name of the previous head of the secret police in Russia. He changed the document name of the Trump dossier file from his name, Warren Flood, to the previous leader of the Russian Secret Service. Now, to me, that shows some really interesting knowledge. That shows that you don't want your name on the Trump document. And it shows you're trying to finger or point people in the direction of someone at the GRU in a kind of a ham-handed way. You'd wonder how anybody in the GRU would be stupid enough to put a Cyrillic watermark on their own document. Why would Warren Flood put a Cyrillic watermark in the Trump dump file, and why would he put a previous head of the GRU unless it was to implicate the Russians in the whole Russia hoax? So to me, that completely frames up who the most likely person is. Again, it's not proof, but it's some place where we would call a congressional committee and begin a line of inquiry. Again, finding the hot pistol in the city rather than going house to house to turn the whole city upside down. Now you fast forward 4 years and you put that same hot pistol and that same person who fired the hot pistol into this situation, okay? And again, I look for comparison of the situations and I say, isn't that amazing? That not only I might be covering my mic here, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Not only did we have that series of unbelievable events in 2016, but unbelievably in 2020. He's right there in the middle of this whole situation again in Michigan, again with Gretchen Whitmer, again making his wife making recommendations on how to ensure technology to safeguard elections. Isn't that the topic we're talking about? Who would be in a better position to basically offer up these ballots? We believe we're printed in Canada. We don't have a printing company yet. I'll be right up front and honest, but my point is, if I leaked that to a foreign intelligence agency, like occurred with the DNC leaks, who leaking it to Hank Greenberg's Russian operatives, I can leak a scenario that makes it look like, if we do discover how these ballots were introduced, it was a foreign power that introduced them. So there's a guy named, I think it's Chris Krebe, Krebe. He heads an agency called the CISA. It's for infrastructure security. He worked with Gretchen Whitmer on the Michigan ballot. And guys like that need to know where they got their original watermark, technology. And he's working for Trump. Trump will put him in 2018. So he came out with a statement yesterday. It didn't look like there was foreign interference. I'm not saying there was or there wasn't. I'm just saying I'm trying to focus the attention rather than the lawyers, writing thousands of briefs, thousands of pages. I'm trying to focus the attention on who did it last time, right? And that's the place you want to start looking the next time.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I wonder if he's just saying I'm not going to do anything when he says I don't see any evidence of foreign interference. Does that mean that the domestic interference is not part of his bailiwick?
Domestic interference. Sorry, John. Domestic interference is part of his bailiwick, and sometimes you need to read the narrative of actually what happened to people in order for them to start cover-up activities. It wasn't until the analysis that was done, I can't remember who did the analysis right now, I want to say the forensicator, a guy named the forensicator, did the analysis on the original Warren Flood documents from 2016, that we ended up with all these cacophony of cover stories that came out. And once they're found out, it's the Steve Bannon methodology, which is flood the zone with crap, with 50 different stories. And I'm looking for the same thing here by putting Civis in the spotlight, putting Alice McAlexander in the spotlight. Did you or did you not go to the Mackinac Conference, the governor's conference, on Memorial Day weekend, 2020? A simple question. Was Warren Flood there? Simple question. Were any representatives of the diplomatic corps of the Canadian government there or not? Because if the Canadian government knew, or a Canadian operative knew, the safeguarding technology that was going to be used in Michigan, they could introduce ballots over the border at the 11th hour, or the 13th hour in this case, which is what happened. We had the Ferrari bring in the 138,000 ballots. So, at 3:45 a.m., somebody had to know. The guy who owns the Ferrari knows that the ballots that are being introduced will pass the safeguard test. So that shows inside knowledge. That shows they know the watermarking, they know the safeguarding. And in a sense, it becomes their own trap. It's like naming the GRU, founder and KGB founder of the secret police. Only a small group of people know who that is. And if you change the document from Warren Flood to Drzynski, it shows that you knew who Drzynski was, and it shows that you were trying to put people, shows you're trying to lead people in the wrong direction toward Russia, when in actual fact it was a DNC operative that created the first Trump dossier. So this is why I'm saying that watermarking tremendously focuses down the available things that you have to look at down to the pin in the needle in the haystack.
I hesitate to ask, but it's an important question, George. What do you see, if anything, about COVID at this point? I think your analysis was spot on that in October they were going to launch a second wave, and there have been many reports, even in my own personal world, of people having that bad lung part of it that sounds so painful and scary. So it's not like it went away. But are we still looking at a dark winter?
I think if Trump won, we would be looking at a more lethal strain. But I do think DHS was involved in one sense, which is sort of a mock exercise for a mock virus, or a very lightly contagious virus, or a highly contagious virus, but very low lethality, which ushered in ballots, absentee ballots, John, in a way that never has happened before, where you have tremendous numbers. And if you're going to get people who are not so excited to vote about Joe Biden, especially black males, which had record low turnout, and you want to fill in their ballot for them, black people in general had low turnout in the major cities until after the election was over. So, yes, there was breakouts in all the swing states to try to suppress votes in the red states. That was rather targeted. The virus seems to know how to target red neighborhoods in swing states. But then the other thing is, it now causes everyone to accept the idea of record number of absentee ballots. And this could have been the plan all along. And again, if you're I'm not saying Civis did it. I'm not saying Alice McAlexander is guilty here of anything. I'm just saying, if you're used to doing this in African countries where you have Ebola outbreaks or cholera outbreaks or various areas, if this is old hat to you from foreign elections, you could bring that same strategy so quickly to Mackinac Island on Memorial Day weekend. And again, I'm just trying to set up discovery here. I'm just trying to set up very laser-like discovery for Trump and Chris Krebe at CISA.
I never asked you about other people before, but under the circumstances, I want to ask you if you are familiar with, have any opinions about the reporting of Thomas Wictor, Wictor. He's somebody that was on my radar screen for a while, and then I started to think that, this guy, he talks double talk, he's hard to understand, and he drags things out, and then he disappeared for a while, but boy, did he show up big time on Twitter the past couple of days with his theory that he's saying that, hey, everything's under control. Just sit back, watch what happens. There's, all of this stuff is it's a sting. He called it a tiger trap, and Trump has laid the greatest tiger trap in history, and now we're just going to sit back and watch it unfold. I don't know. Have you had any experience in reading his work, analyzing whether he's up on the up and up? Any comments on Thomas Wichter?
Um, I seem to remember a Victor. I don't know if it's a Thomas or not, but there was a guy who had DIA. This goes back a ways with task force, but had DIA kind of connections.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it cover services or not, but I don't know the gentleman in particular, but again, I think what you're saying is this DHS theory, this global DHS theory, that there's some kind of secret watermark that DHS put on all the ballots, and the ballots couldn't be introduced, something along that line. And it's exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that the secretaries of state do that. They select the printers, and that's why we're going to the printers, and we're looking at printers in Windsor, Canada, and also in Montreal, Canada. We're looking at people who forged documents before for the DNC. Again, someone who's forged documents before to get somebody in as an election official, so that they can have fake election officials, like perhaps were used in Detroit right now at the TCF. These are 4, 5, 6 people, sort of like thugs, from prison, sitting at the table with one observer, and they say, get away because of COVID, right? And the person has to go 8 feet away, and then they all stand up like linebackers in front of the election challenger. That's what's happening, John. So I have to go with what's actually happening on the ground. And that is, it seems like this is horrible disinformation that's coming out, because I know it's Civis. I know who made the recommendations to the governor. I know she worked for Obama for America, and I know so did Warren. And so, in all these disinformation campaigns, you get about half of the truth. Again, I'm not familiar with this person,
Okay.
but it sounds like that. It sounds like, oh, here's another Steve Bannon thing to take everybody down the wrong path. And then when we all get to the final court case, everybody's going to say, no, actually, the safeguard technology was provided by the Secretary of State from Michigan, not from DHS, and it's a pipe dream. That's why we have to go to the facts rather than these kind of, the fact that I've heard somewhere that said CISA is a secret organization of some kind, and you can just Google Chris Krebe, Krebe, and you can see very quickly that CISA is not a secret organization.
Yeah, I did that, and that's why I actually lifted the quote and put it on Twitter about how I don't see any foreign interference. And what you're saying, I think, probably applies equally to the other guy I was going to ask you about, which is Steve Piesnik. Is that how you say his name? Because he's saying the same thing pretty much. So not much need to go over that ground again. But
he worked for Kissinger, for most of his career. So
yeah. That
to me is beautiful metadata, because it keeps pointing at Kissinger.
Yeah, everything does, doesn't it? At some point. And then I think, from Kissinger, I can imagine a direct line right back to Klaus Schwab over there at the World Economic Forum and Davos and all of that, which Harley Schlanger accurately termed the elite billionaires of Davos. That's who they are. They're the billionaires of Davos. That's what they do. They get together. They create cartels, secret deals that they can never talk about ever again because of what you've described as, the smelly robes treatment. They've all been through it, and they're all sworn to secrecy. And they all saw what happened to Gaddafi when he strayed from the path.
John, this is why, in our dealings with the DNC lawsuits and so forth, it's so important to be spot on, as in discovery with particular pieces of information at the granular level. And when I look at this Pascal Ferrier, who was, again, she's a counterfeiter for the DNC. She counterfeited immigration officials' documents on the Nogales border in Mexico. She's worked on border and done counterfeiting on the northern border and the Canadian border, especially in Buffalo and various points of entry along the Canadian border. When I see that, and if you remember, I went through Montreal as a part of my swing with the Awans and was identifying printers. We looked at State Department printers in Kingston, Virginia. This is how it works. In order to throw these elections, you have to falsify credentials, you have to falsify documents, press documents if you want to get an assassin in, election official documents if you want to get your thugs in for your secret counting procedures. So when I saw Pascal Ferrier come out as the ricin bomber trying to kill Trump after in late September, I said, I get this. This is an immediate slap and seal for something completely unrelated. It was very hand-handed again. That's the signature of, I'm going to get you, Trump. And then, oh, by the way, please put your fingers all over this ricin-laced letter. I immediately think this is yet another way that FBI can slap and seal this and cover up all of her activities on the Mexican border and the Canadian border. And when I saw that she was by the Montreal airport near where the Awans had circulated people and brought people in from Pakistan, again, I don't have the counterfeiting printing company yet. We're looking at those companies that actually are employed to watermark Canadian passports and Canadian visas right now at the not at the main embassy, but at the credentialing, people who print credentialing for the not at the main embassies, but at the consulates around the Montreal airport is where we're looking. It seems like something was leaked. Whatever safeguarding technology was used in Michigan, and I don't know if that same one's used in Georgia. Of course, Alice McAlexander works in Georgia, and she works across all around the world to safeguard elections. But again, Georgia's another hotspot here. We don't know if that was leaked to intelligence agents in Canada or not. But Warren Flood is from Canada and was involved in the CSIS intelligence service before he was brought in to work for Joe Biden. So, I look and say, hey, if a guy has foreign intelligence background from Canada and he's going up to the Canadian border to meet about, safeguarding the election, quote unquote, in a surreptitious meeting with the governor of Michigan, that to me bears more looking into.
Well, George, I want to give you a compliment, if I may. I have to tell you, I think a lot of people in this world have kind of been walking around without any hope or any sense of how they can make a difference or contribute to straightening out this unholy mess that we're in. But you have lit a light in a lot of people's hearts, and the evidence is clear. When you see Addie Ads and David Down Under out there in the cold, going all over Michigan, taking care of informing people of what's going on. And as I listened to their show this morning, and I recommend everyone to do that. This is on Addie Ads' YouTube channel, by the way, and but they've gone to the Fisher Building and the GM Building and the hall with the three letters, the COT or whatever it is, but they are out there on the street burning shoe leather, just like you done for 4 years. And it's an incredible community that you've created. these guys, not only are they out there on the street, but they're listening to what you and I say. I heard them repeating what I've been trying to tell people for years, and they've digested it. They've got it in them, and it's fabulous. So, in California and Michigan and everywhere, Colorado, Maryland here, and Florida. I mean, there is a tremendous awakening going on, and you've lit the flame, George. So I salute you, and I wish you Godspeed with your work.
Well, I appreciate that. What's really great is with the Neighborhood News Hour gang there, is when they come up with something to add, value add, which Dave certainly did with Max Fisher and this whole mega group, and the whole background with the Brahmins and all the rat lines. So much stuff. And, he's talking about Bill Taylor and the package reactors, and how the package reactors were probably the ones sold on the Belton Road, because you can put these package reactors on the back of a train. That's, hey, it's a Rockefeller dream to go mining that way and turn steam turbine engines. Then the whole thing with Bob Yalinsky being a nuclear engineer, a nuclear sub engineer, and that's how they have to fire the boiler, if you will. Then everything starts making sense. That's the Belton Road, right? That's the Hunter Biden deal. That's what Ye was doing with Hunter Biden. And this, again, if we don't unwind what really happened with Belton Road, we've been given tantalizing tidbits. If we don't unwind that, we're going to have these foreign intelligence agencies move right into the White House with Joe Biden. So this is why I say this is another area of inquiry to be looking at the same time we're looking at the election thing. They want to breadcrumb you in the direction, like this guy that you mentioned, Fourier or whatever his name is. They want to breadcrumb you away from the things that are going to be productive. And what you have to do, especially when Steve Bannon gets involved, you have to say, wait a minute, it's half true and half not. What's the baby and what's the bathwater? And then keep on that line of inquiry that's going to be promising, that's going to result in victory. So, yeah, I appreciate it, John, but it's really everyone's contribution. Just we're on this side of the camera, and there's a whole bunch of people on the other side of the camera, and that's the really good news.
And I have to add, Aaron Adler turned me on to the great writing of Edwin Black, and now I am probably going to start reading one of his books next week in my reading series. This one called "The War Against the Weak." And it's a dramatic and highly documented account of what turns into Nazism happening here in the United States, long before Hitler ever took over the government of Germany. The War Against the Weak, a book by Edwin Black, which I think is extremely revealing as to where all this stuff really comes from in the first place, and I'm looking forward to sharing at least part of that book with everybody. So thanks to Aaron for putting all that together, and all the other people. I can't mention everybody's name. People sending me stuff like Jane Morvan and other folks. Just a shout out to everybody that's been sharing with me lately. I don't have time to acknowledge everything, but I sure do read it, and I appreciate it. And George, have a great rest of the day. Anything you'd like to add before we send people on their merry ways for a Saturday afternoon here on the East Coast?
Sure. Aaron's another example of really pinpoint accuracy at the smallest level of detail that tells the whole story. When you start talking about Kissinger's move into B'nai B'rith with Dulles, and all your Dulles work was wiped out, unfortunately. Your Stephen Kinzer work was wiped out by YouTube, but
I'll get it back.
I hope so. But you look at that unholy alliance between the National Association of Churches and Synagogues as a junta. To wage war against the weak, through drug importation and so forth. Again, Max Fisher, you're talking about. That really is going to be the Havari Agreement that Edward Black wrote about, and that is going to be the guts of what we're dealing with now. And the thing that throws people off is they say it's either a Jewish question or it's the Catholics and the Jesuits. And in actual fact, it's an unholy bond between the two. And that's the juice that you get out of the Havari agreement with Edwin Black. So with that, John, I'll say thank you very much for inviting me on your show, and it's great to be back with you.
All right, George, thanks again, and thanks everybody. Thank you all in the chat room, and we'll talk to you tonight here on McDuff Channel. Have a great day.
Thanks, John.